delivery of the notice to the Franklin Township clerk at least 48 hours prior to the meeting, and mailing of notice to those persons properly requesting to be mailed notification of meetings at least 48 hours prior to this meeting. And Mr. Attorney, can you do your additional COVID portion?
In addition, Mr. Chairman, this matter is being conducted electronically via GoToMeeting pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 11 of the Public Laws of 2020 and the recently adopted local finance notice.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there a...
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question of Eric for a minute, please?
Yes.
So I recently heard, this had to do with another committee that I'm on, that any virtual meetings had to be publicly noticed 10 days in advance, not 48 hours in advance. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar that they have to be noticed in advance. They don't necessarily have, the 10-day requirement is for land use boards. Planning board, zoning board, land use boards. For us, it's still 48 hours. And we've been noticing our meetings with the GoToMeeting material, I believe, on an ongoing basis. Is that correct, April?
That is correct.
Thank
So
you.
you said planning, land use, and what was the other one?
Land use and zoning.
Zoning, okay, because on the environmental commission in my town, we had a little bit of a faux pas, and we had like 48 hours, and in the middle of the meeting, they said we had to shut it down because we didn't give 10 days notice. So,
Well, you're an ancillary board to the land board, so.
so we're ancillary to the land or the zoning board, and that might mean that we have to do the same thing?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, moving on to item number 5, is there a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of opening the meeting for public comments, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed to opening the meeting for public comments? Do we have any public on the call?
Do we know who caller number 2 is? Who called in on the phone?
Me, Jesus. Jose?
Is that?
Jesus.
Jesus.
Commissioner Alves.
Okay, seeing no public on the call, is there a motion to close the meeting for public comments?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of closing the meeting for public comments, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to closing the meeting for public comments? Okay, moving on. Approval of the minutes.
Chairman
Approval-
Galtieri, can I interrupt you for one moment?
Yes,
You just ask everyone to please just announce who they are when they're making the motion in a second.
yes, as you motion, please just say first name, please.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Is there, has everybody had a chance to look at the working session monthly board meeting minutes for September 1st, 2020? Are there any questions, concerns, revisions needed, clarifications? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the working session monthly board meeting minutes from September 1st, 2020?
Motion, Tiwari.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Ron.
Okay, moved in second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tiwari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 8. I'm assuming each one of these has to be done individually. So,
Correct.
is that correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Earlier this afternoon, you should have received the executive session proposed meeting minutes for March 3rd, April 7th, May 5th, June 2nd, July 7th, August 4th, and September 1st. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will go through for each one at a time, the eligible members.
Okay. Thank you. So let's see, is there a, we'll start with the first one for March 3rd, 2020. Any questions, revisions, changes, corrections? If not, is there a motion?
The eligible members are Embarrasson, Ford, and Schmidt, and the chair.
Okay.
Yes, and the chair.
And if I could comment on that, I saw the email today about the executive committee meeting, and it said something about they were in a Dropbox, and I'm not familiar with the Dropbox. I sent an email, but it was probably late, so I did not see those minutes.
The Dropbox is available on your iPad. So you should be able to see it there if you want to quickly go into there on your iPad.
No, you go ahead. I'll just abstain.
Okay. With that, is there a motion for the executive, motion to approve the executive session monthly board meeting for March 3rd, 2020?
Motion. Rob.
Or a second? Okay, that was Commissioner Ford. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ambarenson,
Yes.
Ms. Ford, and
Yes.
Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
Also, Mr. Alcazar, April.
And Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt abstains.
Okay, moving on, executive session monthly, executive session meeting minutes for the April 7th, 2020 meeting.
Mr. Alcazar, Mr. Harrison, Ms. Ford, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Tawari, and the chairman.
Okay. With that, are there any questions, concerns, corrections for the April meeting? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
That was Mr. Tawari. Is there a second?
Second, Ford.
Thank you. All right, with that, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar? Ms.
Yes.
Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
Also, Mr. Embarrasson.
Yes.
Okay, moving along. Executive session minutes for the May 5th, 2020 meeting.
Alcazar, Embarrasson, Ford, Schmidt, Tawari, Galtieri.
Okay. Are there any questions, corrections, clarifications? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion, Ford.
Or second?
Second, Jesus.
Okay. With that, roll call, please.
Mr. Ambarenson?
Yes.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt abstains on all minutes.
Okay, moving along. Third of the way done. Executive session minutes for the June 2nd, 2020 meeting.
Same group as before.
Okay, with that, if there are no corrections, changes, or clarifications, is there a motion?
Motion, Ron.
Is there a second?
Second, Ford.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar,
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tuari,
yes,
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Okay, halfway there. Executive session minutes for the July 7th, 2020 meeting.
Same group as before.
Okay. If there are no questions, clarifications, or changes required, is there a motion to approve?
Motion, Ron.
Or second?
Second, Ford.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar,
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tuari,
yes,
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, moving on to the executive session meeting minutes for the August 4th, 2020 meeting.
Same group as before, except not Mr. Alcazar. And Mr. Schmidt abstains.
All right, the only point that I noted is that there's a typo. There's an extra apostrophe S in the second paragraph with the before Murphy's, so it should be Governor Murphy's, not Governor's Murphy. Other than that, I have nothing. So if with that minor correction,
One other, Mr. Chairman, in the final paragraph, it's board, not bore.
Yes, if we could amend that also. So with those two amendments, if there are no other changes, is there a motion to approve the August 4th, 2020 meeting minute or executive session minutes, those two modifications?
Motion, Ford.
Okay, is there a second?
second Tiwari,
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ambaranson,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tuari,
yes,
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, last one. Okay. Executive session monthly board meeting or executive session meeting minutes for the September 1st, 2020 meeting.
All eligible, all members.
Okay. With that, if there are there any corrections, changes, clarifications? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion, Ford.
Okay. Is there a second?
second Tiwari,
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ambaranson,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Tuari,
yes,
Chairman Galtieri,
Yes.
and Mr. Alcazar.
Yes.
All right, we're caught up. Moving right along. Executive summary professional reports. Mr. Danielson.
Thank you, Chairman. So the first category is legal. And the first item there is bankruptcies. I'm just going to share my screen for a minute. You can all see this spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that was presented to me some months ago. This represents all the properties that are listed as being involved with bankruptcies. I also noticed some of these file dates were 5, 10, 15, 20 years old. And I further, let me just shut this off. So I further interviewed staff to find out what that workflow was that they handled. I even spoke to Brian Regan, and basically what happens is that, I kind of mentioned some of this last month, is the town would get a piece of paper, either a fax or a pigeon, that would indicate a property's on bankruptcy. So they would check a box on the computer that this property would be involved. They would notify the township attorney that would send what's called a proof of claim, just to notify the court how much they owed. But nothing was done as far as verifying the case, documenting the trustee, following up on a case, documenting if they properly listed the town or if they listed the sewage authority. Nothing was ever done. In addition to that, nothing was ever followed up to verify the resolution of these cases or the pending nature or pending status of the case. So I just did some Google search, and my research concluded that I could create my own federal courts account and get into the federal court system and monitor and view all these cases. So I went down you see there's almost 40 cases on that list. I went down for the first 14, and I was able to determine that none of those 14 cases were eligible for bankruptcy protection. So since we are subject to the town's approval to send something to tax sale or not, I contacted Lou Renone's office, and I told him what I learned, and I gave them that list, and I asked them to certify this, the standing of these cases relative to them having or not having bankruptcy protection for tax sale. And they did, in fact, verify that every single property, with the exception of 4 that have pending cases, all of them fail to receive protection under bankruptcy protection for tax sale. So I'm happy to report we'll be sending probably 25 properties to tax sale this year. So that went on for many years. I also sent an email to the township attorney, the tax assessor, and I copied Mary Ann. I wanted us all to get together with Eric Bernstein, Lou Renone, tax assessor, and myself to come up with some sort of workflow and possibly a customization to the Spatial Data Logics platform that'll allow for more documentation and workflow, so this list doesn't build up again in the future, and that it could transcend whatever staff member is in that position. Because our tax assessors change, our billing people may change, but that if we're going to continue to use Spatial Data Logic, there should be an autopilot series of questions once you check that bankruptcy box. It should be, did you check the sewage authority? Did you check the water department? Did you check the tax office? Did you document the trustee? Was there a abandonment of the case? Was there a dismissal case? All these things that need to be done so you know the status relative to sending something to tax sale. So that's all good news, and we moved on from that.
Can I ask just one question, Joe?
Yep.
It's very good that you were able to discover this, I guess, dormant asset, which is good. Do you have an approximate value of these 25 properties? How much is that amounting to?
I do. On face value, we're looking at about $60,000. In the long term, us not having that money, some of that money, as far back as 20 years ago, 15, 10, one could say that it's a greater value than the face dollar value, I just thought it was crazy that once someone clicked that checkbox, that these properties were completely shielded from tax sale indefinitely. there was no workflow or procedure to address taking these properties off. The tax assessor told me twice that unless somebody voluntarily sent them a resolution to the case, they just indefinitely stayed on. And that's why you have 20-year-old, 10-year-old cases. And most of the cases I reviewed were resolved, well, actually, most of them were either dismissed or abandoned, meaning that property was taken off by the judge from the case in well less than a year.
Mr. Attorney, is there a statute of limitations for these taxes?
No,
So that's it. So that was actually, I mean, I stayed up pretty late one night doing my, learning the bankruptcy court system, but it was interesting. And once we get a workflow down, this will probably never happen again. Travel policies continuing. I sat down with most staff members in the last week and had a one-on-one talk with them about the importance of this travel policy during the COVID pandemic. Everybody gets it. Everybody's enthusiastically compliant. Okay, so the Shorty bond survey, Eric and I and April reviewed that when they come in, we will respond to them, but we'll send a draft response to Eric just for that extra protection. Still waiting for Eric's office to conclude their research on what we do with unclaimed escrow monies. So I'm hoping to a response this week to finalize that. So Eric's office also did send yet another letter to Southbound Brook, but I also called and spoke with Jeremy Solomon on the issue. And they are, I think there's a term, possibly I'm making it up, but I think there's a term called Southbound Brook time or Southbound Brook schedule. It goes really slow because Jeremy didn't seem even enthusiastic to talk about it. I guess it wasn't sexy enough for him. And he goes, yeah, I'm gonna have to shake one of them up and see if they want to talk about it. But I will say that Christian reported to me that someone wanted to develop a property in that zone, and they mistakenly went to Southbound Brook to get approval for connection, and they told him he's not allowed, he will not be approved, he or she will not be approved for connection until both Southbound Brook and Franklin resolve their agreement. So I told Jeremy about that, and I said, listen, if they don't jump on this, I'm going to let everybody start connecting. So, he kind of chuckled, but, we are obstructing any development there potentially. Marcy Street. Marcy Street's still in the yellow solely because of the state. Joe, I'm going to ask you to chime in on this a little bit more detail, but the DEP did request the bidding schedule to be submitted to the Office of Equal Opportunity for the 30-day notice to advertise. The authorization to advertise currently being prepared by the NJDP, and the revised target date is October 13th. But so we need the approval to advertise tonight. We need the board to vote on that to pre-approve it because it's going to get approved. We're going to receive all approvals by November, but then we got that holiday in there. People go away, people working from home. To avoid any unnecessary delays of Marcy Street, we prepared a resolution for you guys to approve tonight. Should you agree with us that it's appropriate. Also, for the awarding of that bid, depending on when that advertised and goes out and comes back in, we may be in a need for a special meeting in December. And somewhere between now and in November, I need to collect everyone's availability should we be required to have a special meeting. And again, let me stress, we want to avoid all delays in this project because we've had so many, and one delay usually rolls into another delay, and I don't want this snowballing. We need to move this along. Joe, do you want to chime in at this point?
Sure, Joe. The advertisement, as Joe mentioned, tentatively scheduled for October 13, again, subject to the DEP issuing the authorization to advertise. Our bidding schedule at this current time that we submitted to the Office of Equal Opportunity is advertised on the 13th, receive bids on November 18th, review the bids, and have a recommendation for the board to award the contract at the December meeting, which I believe is December 1st. And between the November 18th receipt date and the December 1st date, Thanksgiving falls in that time period. So there'll be a little bit of a time crunch for getting a recommendation put together. But again, we'll do our best to do that. And the schedule is again predicated on the DEP issuing that authorization. The resolution I reviewed as requested, find it to be acceptable. And as Joe pointed out, the award is going to require a separate resolution, which will be in December. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, that's all I have for Marcy Street. Was that someone that had a question?
No, I was going to say, okay, let's move on.
Okay, Hamilton Street, we had a construction meeting. Everything's swimming along at normal speed. Everybody's communicating in a tight fashion. We did hook up the electricity, and we did all those electrical equipment tests, the pumps and so forth. Everything's tested successfully. We did have minor delays with PSC&G hooking up First Electric, and we're still waiting for them to do the gas. That should be this week. And then once that gas is hooked up, we can start testing the emergency generator. Township Water, no thanks to Carl's help, but he did connect the water service. Training will be conducted very soon in October after the gas is connected and the emergency pump testing has been done. Funding date has been, the bond funding date closing has been pushed back again. McManaman, Aaron Law said they rejected her change request, but we have a date right now of October 14th. That's it for Hamilton Street. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, where are we? The one thing that I noticed.
1 hour, Chairman, 1 hour.
I know. The one thing I noticed missing in all these reports is the budget status of each project. So where are we on budgeting for this one?
Go, Jamel.
Right now, the construction contract is projected to be completed before the extended contract completion date and below the contract amount.
All right.
I'd also like to just add about the gas service. I understand that the gas company ran the service from the building to the curb, but has not tied in the service to the main. I see Scott shaking his head in affirmative. Okay.
And I know that Scott, the guys helped with keeping us under budget due to the one change. So again, kudos to the team, but that's good to hear that we've got a project actually under budget and on time. So knock on wood. All right. Anybody have a question about Hamilton Street?
Okay.
Commissioner Alcazar, you've been watching the construction?
Yes, I have. I'm actually looking at it right now.
All right, it looks good. Does it look pretty?
Everything except the porta potty.
All right.
Somerset Street, pump station. So that, as you know, that this has been a thorn in all our sides. We can't close this project out because the contractor's just dragging his feet indefinitely. He's not producing anything remarkable to us. We had Scott and Howard talk with him. If it was fruitful, it was barely fruitful. We sent Howard back to tell him one more time, he better come out with some closing material by our next meeting, or I'm going to make a strong and vigorous suggestion to the board that we assign this to Eric, and Eric approach this with utter vigor and prejudice. And that's where we left it off. East Millstone being managed by CDM, everything's going good. The design is basically done. He did send the technical specs to Eric Bernstein's office for final review. The Delaware Raritan Canal Commission submitted the project for consideration, and I believe, if I remember correctly, we're going to get a response on that in October or November. Again, we don't know if it's going to be between meetings or which two meetings will be between, but we want to ask the board tonight to basically pre-approve the bid process starting today. We need that bid approval to avoid any further delays. And this pump station is getting more critical as the days go by, because it's older, it's outside, it's exposed to the elements, it's on firehouse property, etc. So it's almost a duplicate bid resolution as Marcy Street. The next steps thereafter would be to award the engineering contract for the bidding for the contract. I'd be awarding the engineering business for the construction phase, correct, Howard?
Correct.
Okay, and then also soliciting a proposal from you
Right.
for us to
consider.
award. I also want to make note here that Scott Nocero's proactive thinking, seeing the big picture, he knows that we have to dig up that property to run a water line. But he also knows the county has been doing project, staging all their equipment on that property. And from talking with them, they have agreed to pave the firehouse property. But then we would come up and dig that all up and making it look shabby again. So what Scott proposed to me, and I approved it, is that we take some of this project money and select a vendor to do that water line now before the county digs up, is done digging up and paving. This way, our works along their driveway and parking lot is done. I think that was a great idea. It saved us money, saved us some work, lowers the contract scope, but we're basically going to be our own general manager and supervise the project. Thank you, Scott, for making that a little easier on us.
Thank you. Howard, what's the estimated completion time for East Millstone? Once the bid's accepted, awarded, and everything, how long do we think construction is going to take?
I think I have about a year. There may be a little bit more, 14 months.
Okay.
Depends on equipment procurement.
Okay, so Scott, you're going to be sweating another 14 months after the bid?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we're getting there. We're closer. I think we're a lot closer than we were before. So, okay.
Correct.
Yeah, on these projects, we want to avoid all avoidable delays.
Mm-hmm.
So, high bay garage, we created a delay. We're just putting this on the back burner for now. So CME General Engineering, they are assisting us with supervising our relationship and the details with New Brunswick. We'll get into that a little later. but I just will mention that me, Scott, Christian, and Tom Valente, the engineer from New Brunswick, went out to every single crossing, X-crossing, and suspected manhole with Scott and one of his staff members. And I have to say, I noticed that Tom Valente was very impressed how knowledgeable you guys were with even the manholes. You know what direction they were at. And I think the crickets in those manholes had names. Okay, so the last capital project is the Somerset Street Pump Station Rehab. So just to refresh your memory, and if you don't need a refresher, I apologize for this, but we basically, this rehab is basically taking a brand new pump station, and we have to make it pump even more now because there's just that much more flow in there that we did not anticipate. Even after we get done with that upgrade, it's still not going to be enough. There's too much flow. We know that this is not toilet water. We know this is rainwater. This is leakage water, infiltration water, water coming through cracks, rain gutter downspouts and sub pumps. So I authorized a project which I think we're going to do multiple times in our town. We're probably going to be always in the process of doing it, is we're going to do a smoke test. We selected and approved the vendor, and basically they're going to come in, they're going to connect some air hoses to our sewer and manhole system, and they're going to start blowing very identifiable smoke into the sewer line. And that smoke's going to find the place of least resistance, and we hope to see white smoke come out of people's rain gutters. If the smoke ends up in someone's house, it's probably coming through their basement through their sub pump. We have letters we're sending out, and we also have specialized door knockers we're going to put on everybody's doorknob, and the entire sewage authority staff, the operations, maybe some staff members, I myself, we're going to be out there with the vendor, and if and when someone comes running out of their house screaming smoke, we're going to simply ask them to allow us into their basement, where we're going to have an inspection form and rules of engagement. You know, we have to document who's allowing us in, 2 members minimum, no one goes alone, and then we document and photograph what we see so we can correct the situation. And the smoke test is not very expensive at all. That's why I know we'll be doing it again. It could potentially save us millions for just a couple $1,000s.
Can we avoid doing that on Halloween weekend, please?
Yeah. So that's the executive summary report, Chairman.
Okay. 2 notes on this. It's actually a note on this document, and the next one you're probably going to go through. Before we put this into the record for meeting minutes, can we update it from August to October, please?
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for our professionals report? Okay. I lost my agenda, but I believe the next item is the executive director's summary.
Thank you, Chairman. So I don't know how closely you guys have been following the revenues of the authority since March, but we had a pretty alarming rate of revenue, but that turned around significantly in the last several months. And I'm happy to report we are doing just fine. Our revenue is not hurting. We are certainly within the boundaries of normal revenue. We are actually proportionally right in line with our budget revenue projections. So as of August 31st, we brought in $860,979.77. Year-to-date collected $3,522,100. $13.00. We do have an open sewer balance. That's the open balance that's how much people still owe us of $2,961,679.66. So the next one is penalties. So the penalties that were generated in September were $14,701.81. And to date, where we started in March, we have accumulated $111,887.46 of penalties. And since I just note that because since March, we've been forgiving that. So whereas I saved $60,000 on the bankruptcy, we're giving away, basically, we're forgiving $111,000 and change to date. So at some point further down in my report, I'm going to ask that we discuss this. Expenditures, $322,084.24. Year to date is 2.497. This is absolutely almost exactly proportionate chronologically to our budget expenditure cycle and rate. Cash position, our unrestricted category is 1.4 million, 75,446.54 cents. Restricted is 10,050,046.66 cents, and designated is 8,010,134.36 cents. We have a total cash position on hand of 19,535,627.56 cents. If any of you were so pedantic enough to compare last month's report, cash position report, to this month, you'll notice there's a significant decrease in our restricted category of approximately $2 million. That's because we made significant bond payments. April, is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. So again, our cash position looks good, our revenue looks good, and our expenditures are exactly on chronological order.
Joe, I have a question going back to the penalties. Do we provide a penalty payment schedule where people can pay off over a certain amount of time?
I think that's been handled on a case-by-case basis in the past.
And if there is a penalty payment schedule, is there an interest rate when they do that?
Is there a what?
Is interest included on something like that?
It's not. We don't compound our penalty.
Okay, but there is sometimes payment plans are given to somebody.
I'm assuming yes, but I have no experience here at the authority involving that. Possibly one of the board members or April might, but maybe Scott may know, but I'm not aware of any. I'm sure it's been done in the past. It would need board approval.
I don't remember it coming in my 4.5 years now. I don't remember that ever coming up or needing to. I think the only thing that I can remember in near future was somebody not realizing they were supposed to pay their bill and it went to tax sale and they asked for tax sale forgiveness and that was denied. And the reason for that was because it's standard policy to notice transfer, and there's 3 levels of transfer at real estate transaction. But other than that, I don't remember any request for a payment plan coming to the board.
I
Joe,
don't recall anything in the past almost 7 years as well.
one question from the commissioner's question who asked this. I think that's an excellent question. One of the things I'm thinking of is it's COVID time. Part of the thing that we have not been doing on these penalties because of COVID, I believe. Is it worthwhile for us to, and I don't know what that means, but I'm just thinking it loud, that to persuade people to start paying, because it will become penalty after some time, because it's for us to keep accumulating it and then go after a year and put these penalties on people.
I understand. That's good. Good comments, Commissioner. So one thing I did back in the summertime, actually might have been early summer, is I sat down with Mary Ann, and we were looking at these numbers, and the revenue was not looking good. And I told Mary Ann to change the wording on our bills. The wording included interest and, referenced the tax sale. And as soon as that bill went out with that wording, our revenues returned to normal.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, that if something like that is done to persuade people, they will start paying rather than, they don't want it to accumulate either on their in their books.
Yeah. I mean, we're not in the business to do tricky financing. We either get our money or send it to tax sale. It's usually pretty flat like that. But if the board wants me to bring every special case or special request to your attention, I got no problem doing that. But the normal operation for the town and for the sewage authority is pay your bill with or without interest, or go to tax sale.
Yeah, and I don't know if that is good for either us or for the individuals. But anyway, I think we need to think about that a little bit. At least I need to think about that, I just said.
Okay. All right, board, the next, the first discussion item is we went through 2 audits. April managed both of these audits and did a fantastic job. The first was our annual audit done by Hodgwick & Morrison, formerly known as Hodgwick & Morrison. She collected a mountain worth of paperwork, as she does every year. By the time the on-site auditors arrived, there was 3 auditors plus Andy on day 1. They were here for a week, not Andy, but the 3 auditors. April had everything ready for them. Everything was complete, went by smoothly. They were very happy auditors. Very little did they have to ask for that wasn't in front of them. I'll say that there was nothing that they didn't have. And we're waiting for them to put it together. Andy will sit with me first before presenting to the board. And then hopefully next meeting, we'll have a formal presentation by Andy, the auditor. In addition to that, we had a workers' compensation audit. These are pretty straightforward. They look at, the employment positions and what you're paying. And, those are the underwriting factors for an unemployment policy. April handled that fantastically as well. Went by smooth. It's complete. And no doubt we were in full not compliance, but full underwriting expectations, and I don't see them changing our premiums other than to give us a credit, if anything. The COVID-19 status has been very successful. Everybody's fully aware of how to operate here and at home. Schedules are going swimmingly. Admin and operations staff are very happy and content. I don't see any need to make any changes. It's just simply working. Everything's working. Every aspect's working. Escrow maintenance account. We did not resolve any of the old escrow accounts for this month. Those are the accounts that we have money and we want to give it back, but they're not answering. We have not closed out any of the other escrow accounts. Will next month. And these are accounts that, they are here, they are responding, we have their money and so forth. And we still are waiting to finalize with the attorney's office of what to do with the unclaimed escrow money. I'll promise you next month, I'm going to promise you next month, we will have a plan what to do with the unclaimed escrow money.
All right. And,
we did have
Mr. Executive Director, I'd ask that, per my comment to you, that you fix that portion of your report also before submitting it for the minutes.
Which one? Oh.
Thank you.
You can't joke with me on the phone. I forget to delete. Continuation of waiving the interest of the late fees for these bills. I think the board should have a discussion if you want to continue waiving those penalty fees or not. The only thing I'll add to the discussion before you begin is we may want to just coordinate with the town. Not that we're the tail on the dog, but maybe we can coordinate with the town and do this, the two of us do the same and do it at the same time. So I could live with the interest, the penalty fees, and I could live without them. But whatever it is, I think we should do the same thing as the town, or the town should do the same thing as us.
So, so to quickly give some background to this, I believe that we passed a resolution at the last meeting that we extended to the waiver of the fees until October 31st. We would have to decide if we want to continue it or not. For the municipality has discontinued the waiving of late fees at this point. Similar to us, that there's not as Joe mentioned, that there was a delay for a while there was a backlog in payments, but those have seemed to catch up. At this point, it seems like we're on par with previous years, and that's what the municipality is seeing as well. So not to say everything's rosy and peachy in the world right now, it's as far from it. At the economic data, the unemployment rate is still increasing in somewhat, and the job gain is not as quick as we would hope, but it doesn't seem like our ratepayers are impacted as much. So that's just some some basic information to consider if we want to continue extending or not. But open for opinions from the commissioners on how to proceed.
I will chime in, consider that the township has stopped the grace period for the late fees. I think it makes sense for us to be consistent and adopt the same practice.
I'm gonna go around. So Arnie, thoughts?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Teresa?
The pandemic is still going. We're still, a lot of people still out of job. I mean, question I have, but they don't have money to pay the tax, goes to tax sale. I just think that we afford to go a couple more.
Okay. Can we just I want to clarify before we move on for that. So first is it's a late fees imposed at, I think, what is it, 1 or 2% of the bill or something, and then after that it doesn't immediately go to tax sale. Is that correct? It's a prolonged period of time, like a couple months or longer. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah. So what would go to tax sale this year is for the 2019 money owed. So if you don't pay your bill all year and 3/4 of the next year, then that goes to tax sale.
Okay.
So worst case scenario is, if I'm doing my math correctly, our bill is $321. So what's the penalty? 2%? Joe?
I'm not sure. April, do you recall?
I don't have my bill in front of me.
I guess
I
that's
believe
part of the
it's
reason that I was
believe it's-
asking about a payment plan. If we were able to offer somebody a payment plan, they might be more willing or able to pay in increments.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to point out is it's not a significant, overwhelming penalty on top of in the grand. I mean, if you can't afford to pay your bill, anything over the bare minimum is a challenge. I guess my concern, the thing that I'm trying to point out is, in our case, it's only a small percentage of the quarter not paid. So It's not like we're talking like a $300 penalty on a $345 or $321 bill. We're talking maybe $6 to $8 in late fees for the year. That's why.
It adds up. Remember,
Right, it adds up, but
we have tens of thousands of customers, and I don't know how you're going to scale that management of all those payment plans. We're not a bank. Imagine we had 10,000 people on a payment plan, different payment plan. You'd have to prove each one or some sort of policy. We would have to have a platform to amortize it. If anyone brings it up for question during tax sale or bankruptcy proceeding, I'd rather just not charge it than to, because we're not putting them on a payment plan for the bill. We're putting them on a payment plan for the, they don't pay their bill, they go to tax sale. Because we have to have our money because we have projects. We have to move toilet water out of Franklin.
okay. So, sorry.
The ones would be set up for payment.
Sorry.
Sorry, Commissioner Ford. So I cut you off there. So I was just trying to provide that little background to your statement. But is there anything else that you want to add to it?
Nothing else.
Okay. Mr. Tawari?
I'm wondering what made town decide on what they decided. What were the factors that they decided on? I'm always for the people and helping them. I mean, I'll probably go for another 2 months without it, but because it's not a big money. But as Joe said, it adds up, and we have $111,000 not paid and $60,000 not paid, so we can't keep giving money. So I know I'm not very decisive here. What were the factors? Maybe Ram or Chairman can tell me in the town that they decided that they should go with. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So
it's projected that if we continue forgiving late fees for the 12 months, we're projected to hit $200,000 of forgiveness.
For us or for the town? Is for us? I'm sorry. Is it for?
He's talking about us. So his projection is to the authority would forgive that. The reason the town stopped is because they compared the municipality compared last year's numbers to this year's, and there was no difference. So it wasn't like there was a sudden increase of claiming hardship of delaying bills. It was it almost seemed like, and this is an oversimplification, but people that were late last year were late this year also. So that was the reason that the forgiveness was terminated. It wasn't because there was a sudden influx of hardship and we said, okay, like, too bad. It was the numbers matched up almost identical to last year is the information I was given. So that's why, so I inquired about that yesterday. And that was just after a brief update from our interim executive director prior to going to the weekend. So that's why I got that information to present to the board for tonight. That's the reason why. So, I mean, what Joe's saying is that the hardship was, we saw the hardship early on in the summer, and now it seems like people are catching up and paying their bills and aren't as far behind. But before we, Jesus, do you have any comments for this or thoughts that you can share with us?
I mean, I if we can push it just 2 more months, I think that'd be terrific. It's just that I know the president today mentioned that he does not plan on trying to pass a stimulus package for residents until after the election. So, I know that there's probably not going to be much additional resources coming in from the federal government for another couple of weeks.
Okay, so I will try to summarize this as best as I can. It sounds like there's a desire at least to extend it for another month. So if that's the case, we would need a motion and a second to extend through November 30th, if that's the desire of the board. Am I missing something, Mr. Bernstein, before? Is that correct?
Nope.
What we need?
That's correct.
Okay, so so if there is a desire to extend this through November 30th, then we would need a motion and a second.
Question.
Mhm.
So does that mean we can revisit it if change or what?
I'm sorry, you cut in and out on.
I said if extended, because what I heard people say 2 months, you mentioned 1 month. What I'm saying is if we extend it to November 30th and circumstances like the situation's deteriorated as far as people being able to pay their taxes, do we revisit 1 month or what?
So the reason I said 1 month is we've been doing a month-to-month resolution. That's why I just kept it as is. I mean, if we want to do a 2 month, we can extend it to 2 months. I just was trying to keep in line with the previous months or previous what we've done each month. That's why it's
Okay.
So I guess the first question is, are we doing 1 month or 2 months? And then with that, we would have to put the resolution before the board for a motion in a second.
I have no objection to extend 1 month, month to month. Let's see.
Okay. Anybody else for thoughts on a month versus 2 months? This is as we've been doing it.
I think a month is good.
But I'm okay with it, just 1 month. Because just 1 month we can.
That's through the month of October, right?
No, that would take us to November 30th because our resolution, I think, for last month took us to October 31st. Is that correct, Mr. Bernstein?
That's correct. Can we get a resolution, please, or motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yep. Is there a motion to extend the late fee forgiveness through November 30th, 2020?
Motion.
I have a motion from Rom. Is there a second?
Second, Ford.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yeah.
Mr. Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Give a
Mr.
thumbs
Tawari?
up.
Can you hear me? I don't know. My mic is stuck.
You're good.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Okay. We'll revisit this in the first meeting in November then, or the first. I guess it's the first Wednesday in November. All right, moving along. Joe.
The Middlesex County Utilities Authority, Christian did put a formal request in to modify our estimated payments. Their estimated payments are always grossly too low. So we want them to increase it, but regardless if they increase or not, we're going to send them more money anyway. This way, it's more evenly distributed as an expenditure throughout the year on us. Anything more to add to that, Christian?
Nope, that sounds perfect.
Thank you. Southbound Brook, we already covered. Union, nothing to report. So New Brunswick, as I mentioned before, we all had a powwow at our crossings, our pass crossings, our intersections, and our manholes. It went well. We've actually had active correspondence exchange between Tom Valenti from New Brunswick and us. We are making progress at this point. Christian has summarized his progress with it. A letter was sent by Christian to New Brunswick verifying what we viewed out in the field. And once they accept Christian's summary, then they're going to move into the, okay, this is how much flow we're sending you. This is how much we think we should be paying you. And we're estimating that our $128,000 bill should go down to $50,000 or $60,000. Is that about right, Christian?
Yep.
And then go down further thereafter once Hamilton and those other things come online. You want to add anything else, Christian?
Nope, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Okay. I just want to say that once we get into the, prior to getting into the nuts and bolts, you need to absolutely make sure Eric Bernstein is looking over your shoulder. Okay? And you need to just copy him, even if you got to flood him with emails. I don't care. I just want to make sure, because New Brunswick, you know, they've been tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Archive and documentation project. We have selected a vendor. Christian and I are happy with the vendor. They came here, they did a test of imaging big blueprint drawings. Basically, they're taking photographs of it in high definition format. And once I see how they're going to database all this, we're going to go ahead and actually, you know what? I did not think of this. I don't think this was a specific budget item, so I may have to come back to the board for approval with this.
Does something like that have to go out for bid?
No, does not. We've already satisfied the purchasing requirements we got 3 quotes. Not because of that requirement, but we wanted to make sure we had the right vendor. So basically, above the garage to the right, we have a big storage room of now thousands and thousands of documents. You know, the important stuff is documents involving past projects, and that's engineering drawings and different documents. We need to digitize that, and you know, for nothing else to preserve those documents. I mean, if there's a fire up there in that building, they're gone forever. So we need to digitize it, but it'll also free us up a lot of room and that storage. We could be utilizing that storage room for something else. Once we get past these construction documents, which are the hard ones, then we can have a vendor come in and do the smaller documents. But we need to do it in a way that they get cataloged, and there's a database function, so they're searchable, easy to find once they're digitized. So
did you make a determination as to how long you have to keep those files?
Well, these construction files, we want to keep them forever. I mean, one good example of which we had documentation is when Scott and I and Christian and our engineer, Joe Jamel, you were out there at the intersection of Landon Lane and Easton Avenue. You said there was a spider web underneath the street of pipes. And you really don't know what's under there. I mean, the documentation goes back so many years. You don't know if the documentation is correct or not. So these engineering drawings, you never want to get rid of them if you don't have to. But it's a lot cheaper to store it on a CD or your server than it is to keep these huge cabinets up there. They're very heavy.
Is there a regulation that requires us to keep it that long or not?
Yeah, I mean, there is state guidelines for document retention, but I'd be doing the authority a disservice if I was getting rid of construction documents that other engineers could use somewhere in the future. I mean, just for archaeological relevance. Listen, the construction documents, in my opinion, are what is most costly to store, but yet they're the most valuable. But the truth of the matter is, that's not where the real mess is. The real mess is, we have billing receipt documents. We have, meeting minutes from 30, 40 years ago, all the nonsense documents that once we catalog them and send them to the state and ask for permission to destroy them, we're just going to destroy them. You know, we're not going to digitize them. Documents that we're allowed to get rid of, we'll just ask them. But you got to keep I believe you got to keep a list of the documents you're destroying. You know, for example, minutes from 1982 to 97. You know, and you have to maintain that list and the approval from the state that you use to destroy them. You know, so if someone sends you in an open request asking you for meeting minutes, you could deny that request or respond to that request saying they were destroyed. Here is our approval from the state to destroy them.
That's where I was going, that there may be some way to find out which one we should keep, which we should keep just a list of, and then get rid of some of those.
Absolutely. Commissioner Tawari, that's exactly what we're doing. So Christian is doing one part of it, but April has already begun working with Vanessa on document retentions project. And, you know, if you're not in that business, your head will spin. Much like I wasn't in the business of learning bankruptcy. My head was spinning at 2 o'clock in the morning here at the authority. Vanessa's head spinning. So I actually spoke with her today about that, and I'm going to give her some resources, not only records custodians, but contacts in the state that'll help guide her through, you know, how to catalog documents and which documents go in what categories and what's that retention schedule, and, you know, how do you reach that schedule and submit to the state, all that.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's documents in our building in addition to our storage, and Christian and Vanessa have to kind of, they're in different silos, but they have to coordinate a little bit. April, do you have anything to add regarding the document?
No, the only thing I will add is that also in our financial department, in the bookkeeping area, I already have Jenny working on that as well. Just kind of labeling everything and going with the state guideline. And we're just going to label all the boxes and have them ready when you're ready for phase 2.
Okay, thank you, April.
You're welcome.
So I will, board, let me just say, I don't know if I could pull this expense out of a budget line item. If I have any questions, I'll talk with the chairman and Eric, make sure I'm in category. If I can't reasonably pull this out in a category, I'll come back to you next month for an approval, assuming we're ready. The Somerset County Water Treatment Analysis Plan, we did submit, and we submitted on time. We're still waiting for their final report draft to send us. When that comes in, we'll update you. The bankruptcy audit of accounts, I already reviewed with you. We're currently looking at a new disability insurance broker. We're actually looking at the same broker the town's using, but we have not really had serious conversations on that yet. After discussions with April and I felt it was best to make sure, well, April and I identified that our admin staff is working home 1 or more days per week, conducting sewage authority business out of their homes, which is great. It's working fine. Everyone's productive. Everyone's happy. However, up until now, they've been using their own computers along with their electricity in their home, and they're using their own cell phone. And some of these cell phones were old and not working well. So April got right on it, and very quickly, may I add, and she was able to obtain cell phones for all our staff members so they could use that cell phone to conduct authority business. And should they need to give out that cell phone number to vendors, they could do so without invading their own privacy of their own personal cell phone. The staff was very appreciative, and they're very happy about it. And it's really not costing us a lot of money to make that happen. April got us a great deal on it and unfolded that whole cell phone thing very smoothly.
Joe, we actually ended up saving $160 per month switching to a different plan, getting everyone phones.
Really? And getting
Yes.
over that. So you added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines.
Five
and you-
lines.
Good job, April.
They all understand, Mr. Director, that these phones are now subject to the Open Public Records Act.
They do.
Well, Erica, actually, not to be
Pedantic.
pedantic, but your personal cell phones are equally subject if there is public information on
I
it.
don't disagree, but however, people seem to, a phone is a phone. I just want to make sure they're all aware, and April has confirmed.
Yeah, but the staff feel better that they don't have to give out. Your point's out, well taken. We'll revisit that with the correct messaging to staff, just to remind them. It is authority/publicly owned property.
Joe, that's been taken care of. I sent an email to the staff when I sent them their phone numbers to share.
Okay,
They also should avoid doing things on the phone irrespective of that. That's contrary to the public authority.
Yes.
I'll leave that to everybody's own imagination.
yeah, and listen, we have a very mature staff. They're very responsible, but we will remind them. Regarding the computers, I sat down and surveyed each employee. I would like them to have the same computer they have in the office, the same computer setup. They're not expensive. We get them from state contract, not as inexpensive as Network Blade, but state contract is easy purchasing. But some, so the setup in the office is a very small microcomputer with 2 large screens, but some people don't have the room in their house other than for a laptop. So I identified everything each employee needed and what they could handle in their home. And I have an order that I'm placing for the combination of workstations and laptops, printers, surge protectors, and so forth, everything they need. So when they're home, they're working on authorities' computers and not their personal laptop. So that should be completed by the next meeting. We also have to deal with some wiring in 2 of the homes to make this work, but everything's going smoothly. So one of the other projects assigned to me was the community COVID virus monitoring. So I partnered with Christian on this. We are currently researching organizations like the AEA, and I called Rutgers University. I spoke with Dr. Brooks from the COVID lab, and we're in the process of developing, having conversations to see if we can develop some sort of pilot program of monitoring sewer material with the hopes of detecting the COVID virus and making public safety decisions. So the only thing I have to report on that this month is that we have had more serious conversations with institutions.
All right, let us know if you need help if you need help pushing with Dr. Reddy also at Somerset County. I think between 3 or 4 of us advocating for her response also, I think that'll be enough pressure to get some answers if you need it. So.
Okay, yeah, I think conversations with Dr. Reddy will be, if they are had, they'll be after we set things up with Rutgers, because that's going to be really our only hope, because Rutgers is either going to want to do it or they're not.
Okay.
Smoke testing, we already covered that, but we do expect to begin this in mid-October. Commissioner Alcazar, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
I sent you another draft based upon your edits. So just so you know, our door hangers are in English and Spanish on the other side. And I sent the draft from the vendor to Commissioner Alcazar, and he made major edits. They presumably they made those corrections. If you could take a look at that, send it back to me with your approval, and they'll then go to the printer.
All right, absolutely.
All right. At some point in the near future, we're going to start cross-training here in the office. That'll be something that April and I will write up and then unfold this cross-training. As I have discussed with a number of you in the past, I think it's critical for the authority to have redundancy for business continuity. So the first two places I would like cross-training is with bookkeeping and billing. So there'll be one person from billing cross-training with Ginny in bookkeeping, and I'll probably have, I will have Vanessa at some point cross-training and billing. More to come as we unfold that. One IRS issue, some of you may be aware, there was a mistake in filing the 2019 W-9s. The mistake was brought to our attention. It was corrected. We resubmitted, and there is a probability above zero that we may be penalized monetarily. Don't know how much that is. April's on top of it. She's monitoring it, doing a great job. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. I don't know if it's going to be $10 or $10,000, but they're probably going to try to hit us for some money, especially knowing we're a public entity. And there might be some negotiations that go on once we know how much it is. All right, so April, you brought up the financial accounts authorization for TD Bank and Bank of New York, Mellon, that I need to be a signatory on one of those cards, but you guys did not, the board has not explicitly authorized me for those accounts. You've authorized me for other things, just not those accounts. So
do we need a resolution to authorize you for those two? Is that what I'm understanding, Joe?
Yeah, you guys need to authorize me to be a signatory on those two accounts.
Mr. Bernstein, so what do we need? Just a motion and a second and a vote by the board to authorize?
For those two institutions, there's accounts per institution.
Right. For those,
there's the TD Bank for all of our operational accounts. Then there's the Bank of America for all the trust accounts. But then there's also the TD Bank credit card. And these are just things that we've had before for the executive director.
Bank of America or Bank of New York?
Bank of New York.
Okay.
It's for the trust accounts, and then TD Bank for all the others.
Can we answer the, can we survive until November?
Absolutely. I've been since I'm authorized, I've been just doing it along with the chairman and the treasurer, and that's fine with me for, as long as I need to do it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest a formal resolution be placed on the November agenda regarding same.
Okay, please prepare that for the November meeting then. All right, moving along. Resolutions, Joe?
Yes, we have payroll, operating expense, general fund, renewal and replacement, North Track, and escrow. Also, we have the resolution maintaining user fees on November 1st, 2020, going forward. We have a resolution for the Marcy Street Rehab approval to advertise, and the East Millstone Pump Station Rehab approval to advertise. And that concludes it.
Okay, so that resolution for the November 1st, 2020, that'll be when the billing goes out. That'll leave our rates where they are, and then we'll revisit next spring into summer, depending on how the budget is. If we have to raise rates, but this year, I think this is the third year in a row we're leaving them flat and surviving. So, that's I know this year is tough financially. I think we did some serious cuts, but it seems like we can survive. And next year we have, we're hoping to be in a better financial shape, but we'll revisit this. But it's good that we can at least keep things alone in the pandemic. All right, any questions from the board, from the commissioners for the interim executive director? Hearing none. Scott, not to rush you too much, but if we can get the cheap seats version of this, it would be greatly appreciated.
You got it. I'm just going to touch. Everybody has a copy of the operations report in front of them for the month of September. Just to touch on a few things. Last month, I reported about the motor for pump number 2 at 6 Mile Run Pump Station. Had to go out for rebuild, rewind. We received the motor back, went to go online, and we could not get the eccentric plug valves open all the way. Found that the worm gear on the drives were busted, so I ordered the parts, just waiting for them to come in so we could put pump 2 back online. The Hamilton Street Pump Station odor control system was installed by Evoqua. Again, the equipment does not cost the authority any money because of the contract we have with them. Another thing I just want to touch, so our guys in the field, Princeton Highlands Pump Station, they were able to weld, repair the debris basket within the wet well. We were able to do that in the field due to in part to the welding equipment we just bought that was in the budget for this year. So we thank you for that. We've made other repairs with that equipment already, and it's been very useful. Flushed and cleaned 62,809 sewer line. We're about 80% of our overall goal. We performed some CCTV work this month as stormwater cleaning and flushing for southbound Brook. As everyone knows, we've been talking about this for months. We didn't perform any work until I had an actual purchase order in hand. We're going to do everything non-verbal. Everything's going to be done, in writing. So we sent them an invoice. We have the purchase order. Everything's good. I started the annual services of all our channel grinders with the submersible pumps to follow thereafter. There were no accidents or injuries during the month. Under our connections, we had 1 connection for the month. Total to date, 17.5. Anticipated for the fiscal year is 225.5. If anybody has any questions, they can reach out or ask me tonight.
All right. Any questions for Scott? Scott, excellent work as always. Good job to the crew for continuing on with everything that's been going on. No questions from the commissioners? I'm seeing nods and no. Okay. Christian, you're on the hook. You got to come up with what's the number? 205? No, 208 more connections.
Yep.
All right. Start finding them.
Yep.
All right. Are there any, Christian, was not to skip over you, but is there anything else that you need to add or that you need to add?
No comment.
Okay. All right. Mr. Danielson, please tell me there's no more special projects you have to report on.
No, I will say, April, thank you for reminding me. I asked Mr. Regan to hold on to his iPad for now, because he did agree to help begin to help transition me, and he just needed access to stuff that he already worked on and had on the iPad. So I just wanted to, for transparency reasons, just wanted to let you know that he's holding on to it for now. He's returned everything else, phone, laptop, all the good stuff.
All right. You get back the pink phone? All right. Moving along.
Was it really pink?
Yes.
Yes, with a purple cover.
It was something we had ordered, I think, for Solmaz, and he inherited it. So, yep, he had a pink and purple phone.
He did not inherit it, he ordered it.
Okay, then we were just being cheap and wouldn't let him return it. All right, moving along. Committee reports. Negotiations and personnel. We had intended to have the interim executive director's contract finalized, but we will hopefully finalize that in the next couple of days. There were just a couple of revisions coming back. But that's it for negotiations and personnel. Municipal liaison. Ram, do you have anything?
Nothing I can report here, Chairman, unless you.
Nope. The only thing, I know, Scott, you had in your report that you went out and looked at Brookline. So I'll make the comment that I missed it in our budget. We are not paving streets in Brooklyn. We're helping to pave Brookline this year. So I know.
I wrote Brooklyn?
Yeah,
I
apparently
wrote
the budget says we're paving Brooklyn. I'm sure de Blasio is ecstatic about that, but the paving of Brookline will be in the spring once everything settles. So Scott, hopefully they didn't disrupt anything while they were out doing the water lines.
The contractors overall has been pretty good.
Good. Okay. Construction committee, Ram or Mr. Tewari, anything?
Nothing to report, but I must appreciate Joe Gamal sending me the construction meetings report. So thank you, Joe, for that. Nothing.
Pleasure.
All right. And safety, sounds like everybody stayed healthy and safe over the past month. So that's excellent. That's some good news in everything that's going on.
Chairman, under safety, I just want to throw something. You know, when we implemented this COVID pandemic separation of staff members, you know, if you recall, I told you in my estimation, I thought we could basically shut down this authority with infections within about a week and a half. The example is here in town. 2 firefighters of Franklin Township went to Wisconsin last week. One of them's one of my best friends. One of those guys came back infected, and now the entire fire district's on lockdown.
I read that in the morning, yeah.
He had 18 primary contacts in 2.5 days, and about another 35 secondary contacts in the last 3 days. And that's scary. A lot of these guys were vulnerable in pre-existing conditions, and that could be a lot of people just because of one guy came back infected from a red flag state. So we need to stay separated. We need to stay vigilant and disciplined, and wearing our masks and keeping employees as far apart as possible.
On that,
I guess that goes back to why we implemented the policy that we did, even though we face whiplash for Delaware on a daily basis. So, so good job to the staff, to everybody implementing that. With that, item number 12, approval of the resolutions will be done by consent agenda. All the items that listed below are considered to be of routine nature, thereby requiring one motion and 1 second for all items. If any member wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda or has a question on it, please advise me at this time which resolution, and we will address any questions, concerns, or move it to be voted on separately. So we have resolution number 1006-2020-1 for the payroll account of $178,983.96. Resolution number 1006-2020-2, operating expense account of $330,342.66. Resolution number 1006-2020-3, general fund of $52,580.03. Resolution number 1006-2020-4, renewal and replacement, $191,314.90. Resolution number 1006-2020-5, North Star Crossing, $1,638. And resolution number 1006-2020-6, escrow account of $4,834.38. There's no questions, concerns, or items to be pulled separately. Do we have a motion?
motion, Ram.
There a second?
Second, Tewari.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, additional resolutions. Resolution number 1006-2020-7, resolution maintaining user fees on November 1st, 2020 of the Franklin Township Sewage Authority. And I believe the state fee is staying at $321. Is that correct for the year?
Correct.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion, Tewari.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay, roll call, please.
Who second?
Ram did.
Okay. Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tewari?
Yes.
and Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, Resolution 1006-2020-8, resolution approving the advertisement for the receipt of bids for the Marcy Street Sewer Rehab Rehabilitation Project. Is there a motion?
Motion
Motion
Ford.
Tiwari.
Okay, is there a second?
Make it Tawari.
All right, so Commissioner Ford was the motion and Mr. Tuari was the second. Is there roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Alcazar?
Yeah.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, final resolution, resolution number 1006-2020-9, resolution approving the advertisement for the receipt of bids for the East Millstone Pumping Station Improvements Project. Is there a motion?
So moved. Brown.
Is there a second?
Second Tiwari.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yeah.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, it seems like there's a miracle. I'm not seeing anything for executive session. Is that correct?
No, I got about a 2-hour executive session.
All right, all jokes aside, is there anything, or did I miss anything? If not,
No, Mr. Chair.
okay. So this makes it even easier for next meeting also. We don't have to worry about meeting minutes. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, just for I apologize for the purpose of the record. When is the November meeting?
It is November 4th, and I believe that's included in the original notice that goes out at the beginning of the year. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's what's been published.
Okay, so it is because of Election Day. We don't do it for primary day, but we make sure to do it for Election Day. It is moved to the day after the election. So it is November 4th. Thank you, Mr. Bernstein, for reminding me. With that, thank you, everybody. Stay safe. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a
Second.
All right, I got a crossover on the first and the second. Who's making the motion?
That was Commissioner Ford.
Okay.
And who was the second? Okay, Commissioner Ambarson. All those in favor of ending the meeting this evening, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you, everybody. Stay safe.